Good afternoon, Taryn. How are you?
Good afternoon.
All right. So we are here today to talk about, to basically answer some of the questions that you were asked on Saturday,
Yeah, that's right.
right? So what were these questions primarily about?
It's about tile,
Okay.
porcelain and ceramic tile. And before I start those questions, I want to just tell the context of that because the customers were looking for basically the luxury vinyl tiles.
Okay.
So, but they were not able to find the right color in that one because obviously tile is tile, luxury vinyl tile is just a replica, I would say.
Yeah.
So they were looking at actual tiles then and they start comparing.
Okay.
So they started asking questions like the first question was that which is best, the luxury vinyl tile or the actual?
Okay. And how'd you answer that? What's the answer to what is best? LVT or actual tile?
In my perspective, it's basically the tile is tile. So you cannot compare it with luxury vinyl tile. So they both have their own identity.
Okay.
So I would say if you are looking for something authentic, something that's like durable and that's a product, that's the actual thing that you want. So go for tile. Cause you cannot compare those products. They are totally different. One is like made of some other material and one is made up of like a vinyl. So there is a huge difference between them. So what do you think? Can we compare them?
Well, see, I'm going to have to digress with you on that. So again, we then have to sort of step back and say, what is best? What does that mean better, right? Now, the challenge though, in my humble opinion, is that a normal porcelain tile is very similar to a luxury vinyl tile. Now, what I mean by that is that they're both fake. Now, fake is probably not the right term, right? But they're both images on top of some kind of substrate, right? So porcelain tile is not the actual thing that people are looking for, right? They're looking for stone, they're looking for marble, they're looking for actual stones. And then the porcelain tiles are different pictures printed on there on top of fired clay, on top of feldspar and all that other wonderful jazz to give us strength and durability. So I think that they're both trying to replicate the actual natural stones. Okay. Now again, lots of pros and cons, right? We obviously we do a lot of ceramic tile, porcelain tile, and we do a lot of luxury vinyl tile as well. And you're right. I get it. I talked to all the different suppliers, like, why don't you have more options in the luxury vinyl tile? And they just keep coming back saying, listen, we sell so much more plank, so much more wood look than we do tile look. So that's where all the R&D, that's where all the money goes into. I get it ish. So what are some of the pros of the luxury vinyl?
Pros of luxury vinyl. It's like from install context, it's easy to install. It's cheap to install.
Yeah.
It's easy to maintain as well. Like,
okay.
Yeah. It's in context of cleaning. So if you have tile, you're coming out, you have wet feet. So it will be very messy on tile. But compared to the vinyl, it's like
Okay. Well, let's back up there. So why would water sitting on top of luxury vinyl be any different than water sitting on top of tile?
It totally depends on the format or on the design they have, on the color they have.
Water's water.
But still, I would say that.
Or we compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. It's the same. So again, it's more cost effective, easier to install. What else?
Easier to repair as well.
Much easier to repair. Much. Although obviously it's a lot easier to wreck it, to need to repair versus an actual tile. What else?
Easier to clean.
Nope. Well, it's the same thing as cleaning, right? Spray it, wipe it, done. Nothing sticks. It's all good. Warmer. The other thing I would say is that, ceramic tile, porcelain tile, any flooring we put down is going to have the ambient room temperature, right? So it's not necessarily one's colder or warmer than the other. But you put your hand on a piece of LVT and a piece of tile, holy moly, what a difference in feeling.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? But then we look at the flip side. If we look at, what are the pros of tile versus luxury vinyl tile, much more scratch resistant, because luxury vinyl is plastic on top of plastic on top of plastic. Whereas tile is fire, it's strong, it's hard, it's very, very scratch resistant. Not scratch proof, scratch resistant. Way harder to do any damage to need to do any repairs, right? Because of scratch resistance, because wearability. Like a properly maintained porcelain tile floor will last longer than all of us will, right?
Yeah, inside.
But much more costly. You also need much more subfloor. Like realistically, all the tile we do these days is what they call a large format tile, right? So, which is anything bigger than a 13 by 13 tile. I don't think we even have any 13 by 13s anymore. So basically that requires a minimum subfloor thickness of 1.25. Used to be 1.125. Now it's 1.25 according to TTMSA rules. So you need to build up that subfloor. Now you know why that is, right?
Like the subfloor?
Yeah. Why do you need to build up ceramic tile subfloor versus luxury vinyl where we don't worry about subfloor at all?
Because we want to match the...
One reason, and one reason only. Ceramic tile has no flexibility. It's rigid, it's hard. So the problem is, if you have a lot of deflection or a lot of movement in your subfloor, which you can have if you don't have that 1.25 inch build, the tiles, or even just the grout between the tiles, can fracture, can break, right? So then you get cracks. Whereas luxury vinyl, it's floppy. It'll move with it, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's why it's easy to install luxury wine.
Exactly.
Yeah, it answered my questions as well. But good from that point of view to compare with the actual stone.
Yeah.
Because actually tile is a replica of stone.
Yes.
So yeah, that you're right.
Yes. Yeah, they're all fake. Again, fake is not it's not a fair term, right? Because again, I would still consider, like you said, tile is more closer to the original. Like it's made to have the same textures, the same feels. It's way more similar to the real McCoy, but it still isn't, right? It's still printed on top of clay.
And you answered some of the questions in that discussion only. That the other question they asked, like, it's more cold. So it's one of the benefit of vinyl that it's warmer compared to the tile.
Much warmer.
Yeah. And the other question was, is it easy to like damage the porcelain tile? Like if they accidentally drop any heavy stuff on that tile? So what do you think?
So I always go back to what they call the soup can test. Because again, we generically term all tile to be ceramic tile. Okay. And that's not true. There's ceramic and then there's porcelain. Porcelain is fired hotter and longer because it has additional feldspar to it. So it's much harder, much more stable. So again, the soup can test we talk about. If you take a normal can of soup and you drop it on a ceramic tile floor, the tile breaks, it cracks, it shatters. If you drop the same can of soup on a properly installed porcelain tile floor, the can dents. The floor's fine. Okay. That being said, you drop that same can of soup on an LVT floor, you might dent the board a little bit, but again, it's not breaking the tile.
Because it's easy to just take out that plank and
Worst possible case scenario, exactly what the pressure sensitive glues, heat it up, pull it up, pop a new one down, call it a day, right? But yeah, ceramic tile, I would still, again, because we talk about durability, right? That's really the question there, right? How long will it last? So the definition of durability is the ability to withstand wear. Okay. Now, obviously, a proper porcelain tile will withstand a heck of a lot more wear than a luxury vinyl tile, right? It doesn't have that same tendency to scratch from wear, from pulling chairs across. You still want protectors. You still want to protect your investment, obviously, right? Because again, you take a nice smooth porcelain tile, especially like a glossy. If you have a little stone on there, yeah, you're going to scratch it, but nowhere near the same way you scratch a luxury vinyl. So a luxury vinyl floor, we always say realistically, 10, 15, 20 years before you need to either recoat with a Dr. Schutz or replace the floor. Whereas again, a properly maintained porcelain floor, it's there forever.
Yep. And we'll talk about that Dr. Schutz coating as well in some.
Yes, we're going to definitely do a lot more of the Dr. Schutz coatings. It's insane, spectacular stuff. It's going to change our entire industry.
About this only, I have read it somewhere, and you also told me, I think, in worst case scenario, if we like chip the porcelain tile, so the customer will not able to notice until they see it very closely, right?
Well, that's true with a lot. So higher end porcelain tile is more with the color. It's a color throughout, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. They chip it, you don't really see it as much. It's not as striking of a difference. Whereas your normal ceramics have a sort of a terracotta color to the core, where again you get a little chip, you get a little mark. Holy moly, you see the pink, right? Exactly, just like that. Whereas again with the porcelain to your left there, it's a similarish color into the core of it. So it takes a lot more for something to happen to it, but it's if you do get that mark, you don't see it anywhere near like you would on a ceramic.
That's fine. So the other question was like, since customer don't have knowledge about, some people have, some people like research on Google, and also they don't get the right information.
I was going to say that's sort of a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of.
But still, some people like to do their homework first before coming to the store. So the customer didn't actually, they were looking for the vinyl tile, so they just moved to the actual tile because they were not finding the right color. So they started asking question like, what's the difference between ceramic and porcelain? That's the basic thing. So how to differentiate? Like some of the brands, they always like write it on, this is a porcelain tile, this is a ceramic tile, but some of them don't. So
So what's the difference, or how to tell?
like, how to tell? I know how to tell.
Well, and for the most part, you can tell again by that terracotta color, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the core of the construction of a tile, if it's terracotta, I don't know, tongue twister today, don't know why. Must be a Tuesday afternoon. It is. Anyway, that's that'll typically determine that's a ceramic. Not always. I've seen some porcelains that have the terracotta, and I've seen some ceramics that have a color throughout. So I would still refer back to the technical information from the suppliers, but general rule of thumb, if it has that pink core, it's ceramic, not pink core, it's porcelain. Would you agree?
I agree. Most of the times they write it, but the easiest way to know is like see just the if it's like the same color or it's a different color. But yeah, you're right. Like there are some porcelain tiles that have different colors, so you have to check it closely.
Yeah. And again, I've seen some higher end ceramics will have if it's a white tile, they'll have a white core to it, right? It just adds a little more cost to the manufacturer, is my understanding. Could be wrong, could be right. I don't know. I don't make tile. But they try to give it that luxury thing to it by adding some of the features that the porcelain has of having that same color throughout. So it's not 100%, but 99 times out of 100, you can tell.
No, that's right. Okay. The other thing that I observed, it was not a question, but what I observed from like people have a habit of asking prices. So they did the same thing. It was like obvious they will start comparing the prices. Like, is luxury vinyl tile is expensive, inexpensive compared to tile? So like there are some tiles that are like equal price, but the major difference is that I notice is it's installed.
Well, it's the subfloor and the installation, right? Because you're right. There's some very inexpensive, high quality porcelain tiles, but the fact you need to build up your subfloor, holy moly, and then just the cost of installation, and then the thin sets, and then the grouts, and then the metals, which are not necessarily required for a luxury vinyl. It's I would say on average, if somebody has to ask, LVT, ceramic tile, supplied and installed, and the same type of situation, 3 times as much.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but again, it's a lifetime product, right? You either buy it once or you buy it over and over and over and over again. Now, again, the positive, if you're buying the cheaper one, you can change it 10, 15 years down the road, right? Whereas with the ceramics or the porcelains, it's costing enough money. You're not going to be changing it just because you want a different look to the pour, right? You're going to change it because, oh my gosh, this looks ugly as heck. I need to do a change. I need to do a renovation in my home. Whereas the LVTs aren't as cost prohibitive, shall we say, as the LVTs.
Yeah, that's right. The other question just came to my mind. It's not a customer's question.
Okay.
We can ask this. Like we say that luxury vinyl tiles, they're flexible enough.
Yep.
They adapt to the floor, uneven floors. Like they don't come out very easily due to the movement of floor, because we know that floor moves here a lot. So what about this the postman time, will it be able to hold the?
Nope.
So it will come out.
Yep.
So in that context, luxury vinyl is.
Absolutely. Which is why you need that 1 1/4, right? Like a normal subfloor in Saskatchewan here, like a normal home, be it a renovation, new construction, your normal subfloor is going to be either 5/8 or 3/4 of an inch thick, which is fine for hardwood, is fine for luxury vinyl, is fine for carpet, is fine for everything but tile. Tile needs 1 1/4. Not 1 1/4 is bad. Even 1 1/4, you got some of these really, really big tiles, like a 24 by 24 or 24 by 48. Not only is it 1 1/4, it's 1 1/4 plus you should have an uncoupling membrane on top like a Ditra, right? Because there is no forgiveness to this floor. LVT, lots of forgiveness. Hardwood, because we're nailing through it, sort of becomes ish. We could be arguing back and forth on there for a bit, but it becomes part of the subfloor. It gives it some strength. Tile, no, rigid. You move that floor too much, crack.
That's right. That's all I have, Franco.
Perfect. So I think we answered the questions. Excellent.
But other questions?
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.